Hey, what's up? This is Mark Lopes from Metal Church of Ross the Boss Band. Let us pray. And you're listening to Aftershocks TV. And don't forget to keep it fucking metal. Yeah.
Okay, we're back here after Shocks TV, Matt and Tom. And Tom, I wanted to bring us something up. We talked about this briefly, I should say, last week. Okay, and I said I wanted to bring it up and talk about it a little bit more in detail, and that's what we're going to do today. The Machine Shop, the Digital Lounge. I think we were talking about that last week. Like I said, so basically, just to recap real quick, the Machine Shop is a legendary venue in Flint, Michigan. A lot of bands have come through and played there, a lot of underground bands, a lot of bigger name bands, and so forth. So they've come up with this idea and this concept called the Machine Shop Digital Lounge, which is essentially, it's a live streaming venture that they're doing, okay? Basically, it takes place at the Machine Shop, and it's live streaming. You have to purchase a ticket like you'd purchase a regular ticket to go to a show, and that's the only way you're able to see the show. And I've done one of these so far. They did Nonpoint, the band Nonpoint, last month in December. And what they've done is they brought on Toby Wright. So Toby Wright is obviously a very big producer who's worked with bands like Alice in Chains, Metallica, Korn, Kiss. As you see right there, he's a major producer. And I guess one of the primary goals of this collaboration with Toby and the Machine Shop is to provide artists with what they say is dramatically increased income potential through live streaming. And so Toby does the mixing of the audio, and it's an exclusive service that's it says will be available for sold out shows. I don't really know exactly do they mean sold out shows that are played there that are sold out already, and so they're going to then do one of these so that people who aren't able to see the show could see it live. It's also obviously global, so this is something that's a global thing. So maybe it provides, I guess, an opportunity for like live streams. Live streams do it provide an opportunity for people to see these bands live that typically maybe don't. Like a band like Nonpoint, I know they play some festivals overseas, but they do most of their touring is done here in the States. So it's just an interesting concept. It also says that they also offer video production services for all live shows, and that this service offers, like I said, artists valuable tools which they can compete on a global scale. So I'm just trying to and I'm hoping to get someone on from the Machine Shop that we can talk to more about this, because I'm really interested in this concept. Of live streaming. What do you think this is all about? What's your take on it, Tom?
I kind of find it a little bit confusing, Matt, to be honest with you. It's like it's like I don't know what I'm reading. I've read it and I don't know what I just read, if that makes sense. So obviously if Toby Wright's involved, you kind of go, it's easy to diss it, and it's not my thing. But if he's involved, you kind of go, okay, let this play out a little bit. And obviously, and is he from Flint, Michigan? Like, what is there any location, any reason why there?
That is a good point. I don't necessarily know. It's something I can look up, but yeah, go ahead and I'll look that up. Actually,
I hope it's not next to the water plant, but there's a whole other story. But yeah. But it's kind of confusing for me. I kind of don't know what the concept is. So if I get the like dramatic, and they're using these words sold out and global or whatever, and they're all kind of nice big buzzwords. But as a consumer and as a rock and metal fan, I'm reading it and I don't know what your product is. Like I'm confused after I read it. So it's almost like, okay, I'm curious, Toby, tell me more about this so I can get my head around it. It's almost like I can't have a productive conversation about it because I don't quite understand what the concept is. And I just think it's, maybe I'm just too stupid to get it, but I don't know what it is to really get into the weeds and give my, honest opinion. If I don't like something, I'm going to tell you. If I think it's a great idea, I'm going to tell you. This one, I'm literally on the fence because I don't know where my thoughts lie.
I agree too. And I'm just going to kind of, I guess, venture a guess on what I'm thinking it is. I mean, it could be, we could just kind of, speculate here. It could be, I have a couple of hypotheses, on this. My first is, now maybe they approach someone like Toby, okay, and said, look, the machine shop, right? They want to partner up. Maybe they just were picking like, whatever big producer they can get that's got a good name. To maybe they're getting ahead of, they're just trying to forecast of what's going to happen, coming up. Now, like I said, I don't want to get into the whole weeds here. If there's, we've got an election thing coming up here in the U.S.
Sure.
right this year. The last time we had that, this is when the lockdowns happened, and that's when live streaming was obviously the only way for these artists to go ahead and play live for their fans.
Right.
They could be sitting here going, well, what if something happens again? And maybe they want to get ahead of something, you know what I mean? So that when this does happen, this is available, it's all ready to go, and they can just capitalize on it. This could be just one of those, like, sort of, whisk in the wind, sort of throw in the air. Let's see if this is something that could stick. Yeah. If something like that happens, because my thing is, or like I said, or it could be one of the things we talked about last week with On the Road Again, the Live Nation. Okay. Now, maybe there's bands that don't want to line up with that, and maybe they're going to have a tough time touring and finding. You're right. We could speculate all day. I'm just trying to. What I'm thinking is this. I mean, it's a live streaming venture they're doing now. Live streaming, some people are okay with it. Some people are like, no, it sucks, right? I think it did decent business though during the pandemic. I think that's why a lot of bands were doing it. It was also the only way they can keep in touch with their fans. Sure. But the difference now is it's in a specific spot where those live streams were usually being done in people's practice, rooms and in their lockouts and so forth. And so in their jam rooms and all that. So it was more like, okay, we're just going to film a practice here and we'll do it here. We'll do a live stream. Some bands were doing it professionally. They really were doing it professionally. Yeah. They were getting, good camera crews in to do it and so forth. So maybe this is just, I don't know if like you said, it is so confusing as to what it is they're going for. I mean, they talk about the goals. Okay, if you talk about the goals is to provide artists with increased income potential, well, how are you doing that? I mean, the first thing is you've got to attract the customers that are going to go ahead and buy this product. And so how were you doing that? What if a band, a band like Nonpoint, they play live all the time. I don't think it's that difficult to be able to go see, Nonpoint play live. Now, I know they usually have specific spots in the country where they usually focus on, which is mostly the Midwest and the East Coast. I don't really see them come out here too often. I don't think this is done so that a band like Nonpoint can get fans from out here, or then of course across the globe to see them. Maybe it's that. Maybe it is for bands. Maybe now that I think about it, we just talked to Carl about it, and he was talking to Carl Kennedy from the Rods. He was talking about how it's just so tough to tour.
Expensive.
Now. Yeah, expensive. They're not making money. They're losing money. So maybe this is a way of like, listen, instead of having you go out and do a global tour where you're going to lose money, you come to the machine shop, you do a very well curated and planned out and organized and executed live stream video for your fans across the globe so that you can then profit that way. You could charge $20 a head. I think that's how much it was for Nonpoint.
Yep.
And so now Nonpoint can just go, listen, we're doing this one live stream show for everybody across the globe. Since we can't tour in Europe now, and we can't tour overseas, it's too expensive. We're going to do this so that all you guys can come and obviously just see us somewhat live online. That's the only thing I can think of, just because it's too expensive to tour now, and this is sort of the way they're going to try to, I guess.
If that was if you're correct, and I said I don't know, and you said maybe. So again, we're none the wiser after 10 minutes.
Of course
not. No one else is any wiser either, by the way. So sorry for doing it an injustice, but. Yeah, if Toby wants to come on and explain, we're happy to have that discussion. But, you got to put yourself back. If I was a fan of Fear Factory, just use Fear Factory as an example, and that exact concept was here in Charlotte, would I pay $20 or $30 to get into a club to see a live stream of Fear Factory if I was a fan of the band? I wouldn't. No, I just go on YouTube and watch their full live concert that they released a year ago. I don't know why I would pay for that. So for me as an end user, I would have zero interest. Even those live streams that we all watched during COVID and lockdown and whatever, that was a novelty for about 10 minutes.
Yes.
And then
Yes.
even on Blabbermouth, Anthrax do a new, I didn't even click on it. I had no interest. It was just, the technology of Zoom and WebEx and all that kind of thing. That was cool for a while because we're all at home. We were a captured audience. But
Yes.
personally, hey, I can't speak for anybody except myself. Personally, I would have zero interest in this product if that's what it's going to be. Best of luck to everybody and Toby, and I hope it works out. And if it puts some dollars in bands' pockets, I'm all for it. But as an end user, I wouldn't be signing up for this.
Yeah, I think you made a great point, Tom, about it being pretty much a novelty. I think at the time there was no other option.
Sure.
So it was like, okay, everyone was just sitting home like you said anyway on their screens. So why not do it? But most of them also did it for free. I mean, yes, there were some that did charge. But a lot of the bands were just doing it, like I said, in their practice pads, in the jam rooms, and just sitting there going, we'll put the camera on head, check us out.
Yeah.
Now, I get maybe a lot of the bands, they didn't have the necessary, I guess, the setup or so forth to make it look really professional, and I'm sure that's what they're doing here. I think I was mentioning last episode about the Cradle of Filth one that we had seen.
Yeah.
And I think that one was a paid one as well. And they had everything. They had all the theatrics to it and everything. It was weird without a crowd, there with that. But they did. They got all done up, and but it's just not the same. Now the digital lounge, and I'm not sure. I think it's something we have to look into. Is I would assume though the difference between a digital lounge is you're going to have a live audience there. I believe. I don't think it's just
looking at a
empty
screen.
Audience.
I still don't get it.
Well, I'm with you. I mean, you're still. Yeah. But when I think back, if I think back to back in the 80s, I remember the first concert, I should say, I've ever saw was on TV. It was The Police. I remember it was on before in New York City. We didn't have cable at the time. We didn't have cable television. In certain boroughs, there was a big thing with the cable vision and the government officials, whatever. So certain parts of New York City, certain boroughs like Queens, we didn't have cable. And so I didn't get, that's what kind of sucked. In the early 80s, I didn't really get a lot of that early MTV stuff here where a lot of the metal was being played on. My aunt would tape videos on a VHS and then send them to us so we can watch some of it. But it sucks. So that we had this thing, what was called WHT. And I know that anyone who's lived in the New York, New Jersey area should remember that what WHT was. It was sort of it was like a cable sort of service. And they had, I remember we saw it in the guide, like, oh, The Police. I was a fan of The Police in the early 80s. And they were playing a live thing on. It wasn't live. It was recorded live, obviously.
Yeah.
But that was the first thing I had seen because I was a kid and also bands back then weren't touring as much, right? It wasn't that it was all the money was being made on album sales. The bands didn't tour like they did now.
Yeah.
So you didn't get that option a lot of times. So because of that, you would watch it on TV. So I'm thinking this is sort of maybe the same sort of concept, like because bands are probably going to not be touring like they used to. It's like, okay, well, how are they going to see them live? Maybe they're just throwing this, they're taking a shot with this, and then hopefully it's one of those things where it sticks, where people will shell out $20 to see their favorite band on live instead of a recording like I did with The Police. To actually get to see it when it's actually happening. And then maybe the production is hopefully a little bit better, where the sound's coming out pretty good. Where obviously when these bands were just doing it by themselves, it wasn't that great. I think it's just something that they're giving a shot. Where I actually applaud the idea and the attempt. I just don't think it's gonna last because it's just not the same experience. And if it's gonna last, they've got to make it pretty affordable. I think even like $20, no, maybe $10 if I'm sitting around doing nothing. Okay, if I'm having a couple drinks and see them live, if I got nothing better to do, or if I have a buddy over or something, maybe that. But if they're looking at it as a money making kind of situation where they really want to pay these artists. $20, I don't think a lot of people are going to do it. I don't think so.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. So it should be interesting. And like I said, I'm really hoping we can get somebody from the Machine Shop. Toby, I tried to reach out and get him the last month. He stopped doing interviews for it. So maybe someone else from the Machine Shop themselves.
Yeah.
I'm going to reach out. Hopefully we can get someone on to talk about it a little bit more. But
love it.
Interesting concept nonetheless.